Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for coming. Before we start our regular town council meeting, we have 3 authority meetings that we do on an annual basis. They're all going to be relatively short, so I'm going to call to order the Yountville Housing Authority, and it is Tuesday, March 4th at 3 o'clock. And the first item is a roll call, please. And so all today's meetings, we're going to do voice votes. So can we get a roll call, please, Cammie?
Chairperson Moeller,
Here.
Vice Chair McKee,
Here.
and members Knight,
Here.
Tripp, and Reeves. All members are present.
All right, thank you very much. So can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? And a second.
Move adoption.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? That passes unanimously. The next item is the election of the officers. And Brad, do you want to explain this, or I'm more than happy to do that? Okay, so basically, it's always been kind of the tradition that the chair and the vice chair of this authority is the mayor and the vice mayor for that year. So if there's any discussion, if not, I will first go and see if there's any public comment on this item. Seeing none, I'll bring it back for any discussion and possible motion to approve the chair and the vice chair for the Housing Authority.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would move appointment of the mayor as the chair and the vice mayor as the vice chair. And can we do the town manager at the same vote for secretary, executive director?
That's how do you want that handled, Gary?
I'm looking for a microphone that works.
Okay.
I will need to pull it up. I'm still loading my agenda in the system that works. Cammie, do you know, are those separate votes that are on the agenda this afternoon? It could be that the bylaws automatically have the town manager and the town attorney in those positions without a new vote from you all, because there's only one town manager and only one town attorney. So we would need to confirm that. So just give me one moment while I pull this up.
Looks like the Yountville Housing Authority bylaws state the chair is the mayor, the vice chair is the vice mayor, and the secretary or executive director as the town manager.
Okay. I don't see any harm in adding that to the vote, though, and voting on it. Yep.
Did I say everything?
Is that your motion that you would like?
That was my motion, yes.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstained? That passes unanimously. Next, we're going to approve the minutes. These are the minutes from the Housing Authority meeting that we held January 16th, 2024.
Mayor, I'll move to adopt the minutes.
Okay?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? The minutes are unanimously approved. Now, time for public comment that's on anything that's not listed on the Housing Authority agenda. Seeing nobody come forward, I will close the public comment. We have one item on the consent calendar, which is to approve amendments to the Yountville Housing Authority bylaws. Do we have any questions or discussion? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council for a motion and a second to approve our consent calendar item.
I'll move adoption of resolution number 25-37, approving amendments to the Yountville Housing Authority bylaws.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. And we do have one presentation. Jonathan Sakamoto will be from the Housing Authority of the City of Napa, will present their annual report. Thank you and for coming.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for council for having us. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. The Housing Authority for the City of Napa contracts with the town of Yountville to provide affordable housing services. There are countywide services that include rental assistance programs, homeless services, homeless projects. Services provided to the town under the service agreement include technical assistance related to any variety of housing functions, including assistance with maintaining the current affordable housing stock, including opportunities to acquire funding, monitoring the affordable housing projects, and rental assistance in the town. Additionally, the Housing Authority is contracted to administer the town's home and Cal Home programs, as well as the PLHA through HCD, or Permanent Local Housing Allocation Funding. So one of the main functions of the Housing Authority is to administer the rental assistance programs countywide, including the town. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, commonly referred to as the Section 8 program, is the largest of the programs. HUD annually awards the Housing Authority grant funds to provide rental assistance to very low-income households. There are currently 20 households in the town receiving rental assistance under this Housing Choice Voucher Program. So each of the rental assistance programs require that the households meet with the Housing Authority annually to recertify with one of our housing specialists to look at their income, look at their benefits, make sure everything's appropriate. We also review and inspect biannually the units themselves for housing quality standards to make sure they're health and safety living environments for the households. In May of 2022 was the last time we had opened the Housing Choice Voucher waiting list, and it is still closed, unfortunately, at this time. But that was the last time we opened and ran a lottery. And there are currently 5 households within the town that are on that list. The other area of countywide activities that the Housing Authority represents the town is in regard to homeless services and homeless projects. So both myself and the housing manager represent the town at the monthly Continuum of Care meetings. So those are meetings where local nonprofits, housing agencies, county health and human services gather to discuss strategies on addressing homelessness in our area. HUD recently approved our 2024 application with increased funding to compensate for the increased cost of housing. So at this time of year, the Continuum of Care did the point-in-time count, and so they're generating the reports to address and look at and study what the homeless population is looking like, what the services they need, where they're engaged, where they need assistance. And so we can design and strategize on how we can further help the effort to reduce homelessness in our community. And locate people into permanent housing is the idea. So the next area would be the Housing Standard Services Agreement that we have with the town. So under this service agreement, we do compliance monitoring for the town's regulatory agreements. So for the for sale affordable housing units, these were like down payment assistance or first-time home buyer opportunities. We monitor to make sure that the properties are insured, that they're still owner-occupied, the property taxes are current. So we also work with the lenders and the owners in case they want to do any refinancing so they can have their subordination policy, help generate payoff demands. For the town's rental assistance program or projects, we perform annual monitoring and reviews of these programs and these projects to make sure that they are providing affordable housing at the appropriate rental levels to the appropriate clients, to make sure they're following any local housing preferences and within the affordable limits. So we'll also provide technical support to the affordable housing projects to make sure that the property managers know how to stay in adherence with the regulatory agreements. When there's new property managers, they need training, and so we provide that technical assistance to them. Okay, so program administration for loan servicing. So the housing rehab team operates the affordable housing owner-occupied rehab program. So that is start to finish. So they do project management, do the income qualifications, help file and get all the proper permitting, and run the program itself. So that also turns into transitioning of monitoring the loans, making sure that the owners maintain them, that they're owner-occupied, and that the property taxes are paid. Registration with HCD is carried through. So next is the actual grant-specific program. So the home grant, which was awarded back in 2019, was the NOFA. It was awarded in 2021. It was a $500,000 grant. It's specifically designed for owner-occupied housing rehabilitation loans. That grant is set to expire this year on October 31, which was based on an extension that we requested from HCD due to some delays that they had in both getting the grant out and both approving some exceptions and waivers that we had requested on the town's behalf. The other program was 2014, that was Cal Home, that expired back in 2018. There was one loan repayment back in December, so the current balance on that program is $61,451. So if the home grant expires soon, we can still operate some and do another couple projects or so. And there's always the opportunity for more payoffs to come through in that meantime. For home and Cal Home, the service agreements, we have to do annual quarterly monitoring to follow up with HCD, and we maintain accurate files and documentations for all the grant funds, including program income. And for the Housing Authority staff for rehab, they maintain the files for the projects that were done for audit purposes. And the other thing coming up is the town is working with the city to develop the junior unit and accessory dwelling unit loan program. So this program was using PLHA funding. So there's $340,000 in that fund available for projects. And so we are working with HCD to get all those programs tidied up so that they're ready to launch and be available. And that program is actually split. Some of it's for ADU, some of it's a little bit for rehabilitation as well. So you have the option. And the Housing Authority is always available throughout the year to technical assistance to staff from the city or their town for any questions they may have. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you very much. We do have a couple questions. Councilmember Tripp.
I wanted to ask you on the 2019 home grant program that expires in October of this year. That was, I think, originally $500,000. I believe the bulk of that remains, has not been used. Or can you give us any numbers of how many grants have been made?
I think two or three at this point, about 100,000
Okay.
to date. And a lot of the delay has been caused because the home program has a requirement that the value after a project has been rehabilitated be no higher than a certain threshold. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense for our area. And so we have to request a waiver every time they release it every year. And they took 2 years to approve the waiver. So it delayed our ability to get that funding out into the community. I think when we requested the waiver, it said the after rehab value for property couldn't be higher than $600,000 in the town of Yountville. It's hard to find a project to help somebody where the property is after rehab is less than
Are the
$600,000.
manufactured homes eligible for that?
They are eligible for that.
Some of those might fall under the 600.
Yes, some of them do, and that's where we have been able to provide the most assistance most rapidly is in those areas.
Well, we should really encourage people because it's kind of free money.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we do. Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, we've been in the community long enough that we've gotten to a lot of those properties, and so they're in good standing. So,
Yeah, I guess that's right.
yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Vice Mayor McKee.
My question goes back to the 5 people or entities on the wait list for the very affordable housing.
Yep.
Have they been the same parties since 2022 waiting for something to move?
Yeah.
Are they already local residents, or are they just people thinking we want to move to Yountville and
They were people who, when they applied to the wait list, had an address in the town.
in the town
And
already?
they are still active on that list, so they must still be communicating with us and be in the town.
How does the list evolve? Do we wait for somebody to come into money and fall off or pass away, or how do we? And obviously, if we have more housing, that would change. But
It's
That's
really
a long wait.
it is a long wait, and part of the bigger problem is Section 8 is so poorly funded, and the increase has not happened, and inflation hasn't been as good as we would hope for our grant, and we're in shortfall at the moment, so we are outspending what we are getting allocated. So we are working with HUD, and hopefully they can change the budget and allocate a little more funding to make it work.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you for explaining.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Reeves, question?
You outlined in the beginning of your presentation sort of the generic duties that you perform as our housing authority. Do you have more specific numbers of how many people you are addressing in Yountville with each of the things that you delineated were your duties? Like you indicated about the Section 8 housing, but what about homeless services, and how many people do you actually help with the filling out of forms and applying for who live in Yountville, right?
Okay, yeah, we can provide that. I don't have it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, we can definitely add that and provide that information in an email, however you
Yeah,
want.
it would be great, because all of the activities that are in your purview, I'd like to know how many people actually utilize your services on all the programs that you administer.
Happy to provide that, put that
Okay,
together.
great, thank you.
Councilmember Knight.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I guess just as a follow-up to these questions, could you tell us how you reach out to people in the community, and is there ways we could help you to reach out to other people in other ways, or just generally when you're providing these resources, do you post information at some of your property sites, or how do you generally
Work a lot
talk
with the
to
community partners. We work with the parks, especially the mobile home parks. We communicate with the managers there specifically to make sure that they know that anybody who may need some help with the rehab program that's available. Uptown Napa Center, Up Valley Center, we communicate with them as well to make sure that people up here are aware of the projects that are available and the different funding sources. But
do you have someone in particular at your organization that does community outreach that we can check in with, or is there someone in your office that does that for all the communities, since I guess you're the housing authority for all the cities in the valley? So
it depends on the program.
Yeah.
Whether it be Section 8 rental assistance or the housing rehab program, that would be Hernando. If it'd be first-time home buyer, it'd be me. Homelessness, it'd be me or Molly Radigan, the deputy city manager. So it would just depend on what group we're trying to reach. We all work with them pretty closely, so it would just matter there.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Another question from Vice
To
Mayor
follow
McKee.
up on, I think, where you're going, I would like to find out about the grants for home improvements, and perhaps we can do a meeting on site at Rancho de Napa for both Bella Vista and Rancho, which are both of the manufactured home communities. And that way we can have the forms and help people that maybe don't have the wherewithal to get online and maybe don't see a flyer here, because I know we do have flyers here. But I'll circle back with you and
Yeah,
find
we've
out
done
that
it.
contact. And
We've done those at the park before. We'll do them again. I'm happy to.
since I've lived there, I know you haven't, and that's 2019. So maybe it's time,
okay.
especially with this deadline coming up. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you very much for coming and giving us updates, and looking forward to some follow-ups from
Yes,
the councils for our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
All right, bye. So with that, we have no public hearings, administrative items, or staff informational reports. Any reports from the council as commissioners? No. And so I'll take a motion to adjourn the Yountville Housing Authority to its next regular meeting, which will be Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2026 at 3 p.m.
So moved.
Well, second.
The motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstain? Anybody who doesn't want to adjourn? Nope. That passes unanimously. So now let's move on to the Yountville Finance Authority, and I'll call this meeting to order at 3:19 on March the 4th, 2025. Pretty much the same order as our Housing Authority. I will call the meeting, I just called the meeting to order. Do we need a roll call again for this one? Might as well.
Sure.
All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Members McKee,
Here.
Knight,
Here?
Tripp, and Reeves, and Chair Mueller.
Here.
All members are present.
All right, thank you. And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for the Yountville Finance Authority?
Move adoption of the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstain? Any opposed? It passes unanimously. And the bylaws for the Yountville Finance Authority are the same for election of officers. If there are no questions, I will accept a motion and a second to appoint the officers for the Yountville Finance Authority.
Mayor, I move adoption of the election of officers for the Finance Authority listed in the report. The mayor is president, the vice mayor is vice president, and filling it out, the town manager is administrator, town clerk is secretary, the administrative services director is the treasurer, controller, and the town attorney is legal counsel.
Okay, thank
Second.
you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you very much. That passes unanimously. Now I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was held January the 16th, 2024. Gary, should we be taking public comment on the approval of the minutes for this authority? For all the,
On consent, yes, but I think you can also ask for public comment with the other items too.
okay, will do. Thank you. So can we get a motion and a second for approval of the minutes?
Move approval of the minutes.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? That passes unanimously. Any public comment on matters not listed on the agenda for the Yountville Finance Authority? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We have 2 consent items. So first, I will take public comment on our 2 consent items for the Housing Authority. No, sorry, the Finance Authority. Seeing nobody coming forward, I will ask for a motion and a second for our 2 consent items.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
I will second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? It passes unanimously. We have no presentations, public hearings, administrative items, staff informational reports, and so now I'll take a motion to adjourn the Yountville Finance Authority to Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2026 at 3 p.m.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. Now, our last authority meeting today is the Yountville Parking Authority. I will call the Yountville Parking Authority to order at 3:23, March the 4th, 2025. And roll call vote, please.
Members McKee,
Here.
Knight,
Here?
Tripp, and Reeves, and Chair Mueller.
Here.
All
Thank
members
you.
are present.
Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. We get a motion and a second from the council. I guess we're commissioners, from the commissioners.
I move to adopt the Yountville Parking Authority agenda.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? That passes unanimously. Next item is election of officers. The bylaws stipulate the same as for the Housing Authority and the Finance Authority. Do we have a motion? I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the officers as listed in the bylaws. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? We have officers. So now I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from the Yountville Parking Authority held January 16th, 2024.
Move approval of the January 16th minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Again, back to the public. Any public comment on anything that's not listed on our parking authority? I will try to get through this quickly. Seeing none, I will move ahead to the consent calendar. Is there any public comment on today's consent calendar for the parking authority? Seeing none, do we have a motion from the commissioners to
Move
approve
it.
the consent calendar?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second?
A motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Passes unanimously. We have no presentations, public hearings, administrative items, staff informational reports. Any commissioner comments? Seeing none. And I'd like now to get a motion to adjourn the Yountville Parking Authority to Tuesday, March the 3rd, 2026 at 3 p.m.
I move to adjourn to March 3rd, 2026.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned with our Housing, Parking, and Finance Authority meetings. Now, I will call to order today's regular meeting of the Yountville Town Council. It is Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025, and it is 3:26 p.m. So with that, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Members Knight,
Here?
Tripp, Reeves,
Here?
Vice Mayor McKee,
Here.
and Mayor Mueller.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Could we all now stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item, do we have any council member announcements?
Are we going to do the agenda? Did we already do that?
Oh, maybe we should adopt the agenda. Thank you very much for that, Councilmember Reeves. Do we have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Move adoption of the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? We've unanimously adopted the agenda, so now we will move along to council member announcements. First, I just want to say what a fabulous Mardi Gras parade we had on Saturday. The weather was perfect, the parade was perfect. Everybody just, there was just a smile on everybody's face. Everybody just had a great time and lots of comments. I think we've really set an expectation that people are going to be looking for this next year. So just my comment. Vice Mayor McKee, comment.
Thank you. To follow up on that, I would love if businesses are out there, would love to hear feedback from how they felt the day went for them and for their bottom line. That was to invigorate not only the town to have some fun, but also to keep your doors open and keep lots of people in your establishment. So hopefully that works well. Tomorrow night at Rancho de Napa's Clubhouse, 5 p.m., we're hosting a stormwater meeting with our Public Works team with Brad Ralston, town manager. I'm not sure if Margie's going to be able to make it.
Yeah, I thought it was 5:30. Is it 5?
Well, 5 o'clock is set up, so you're right, 5:30. Don't anybody show up early, 5:30. And we're going to talk about flooding and water management and the pump system, just to get educated, since we have some storms that went through, particularly the one on February 4th. And so we're all better educated and prepared. So this is also to include residents from Bella Vista and anybody from the town that wants to learn more about the stormwater in Soyo. So thank you.
All right. Councilmember Reeves.
Yes, I would just like to make an announcement. We've selected a new date for the next picnic with a vet, where town residents are paired up with a veterans home resident, and we share a picnic lunch. It has been a great event every time we've done it. I think we've done 5 now. And we are having another one on April the 16th at 11:30. And if you would like to get in touch with Irene Jenny, her phone number is 925-899-9708. Or you can reach her at Jenny's, JENNYS, R-US, at att.net. She's the one that takes everybody's name and pairs you with a veteran. So if you want to get on the list, do that now, and we'll have a great one next time. Thanks.
Any other comments? Seeing none. We have one proclamation to the American Red Cross. So, Anne, would you want to come and meet me at the podium? Thank you very much for coming again. And the town of Yountville would like to issue a proclamation in recognition of American Red Cross Month. Whereas during American Red Cross Month in March, we recognize the compassionate acts of people in Yountville, and by renewing our commitment to lend a helping hand to our neighbors in need. And whereas, since Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross almost 150 years ago, generation after generation has stepped up to deliver relief and care across our country and around the world. The volunteers, blood and platelet donors, and financial supporters who now give back through the Napa-Sonoma Disaster Response Area of the American Red Cross remain unwavering in their commitment to prevent and alleviate human suffering in face of today's emergencies. And whereas voluntary and generous contributions shine a beacon of hope in people's darkest hours, whether it's delivering shelter, food, and comfort during disasters, providing critical blood donations for hospital patients, supporting service members, veterans and their families, saving lives with first aid, CPR, AED, and other skills, or delivering international aid and reconnecting loved ones separated by global crises. And whereas work to uplift our community is truly made possible by those who selflessly answer the call to help, whenever and wherever it's needed. We hereby recognize this month of March in honor of their remarkable service, and we ask everyone to join in their commitment to care for one another. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, State of California, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Napa County and California, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Red Cross Month. I encourage all citizens of the town of Yountville to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. So, thank you very much. Would you like to say a few words? Yes. Oh, great. I'll leave this here for you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Moeller and town council members. I appreciate you doing this. My name is Annie Schaefer, and I'm on the board. Oh, excuse me. My allergies are driving me crazy. Sorry. Anyway, I'm on the board for the Napa-Sonoma region for American Red Cross, and I thought I'd start off just by very briefly reminding everyone of the mission of the Red Cross, which is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. My particular area of interest is blood donation, and so I'm encouraging anybody that wants to host up here in this beautiful area. You guys have a perfect venue over here at the community center. To host a blood drive, please let us know. I left my business cards with Cami, and then you can also go online. But to donate blood is just a minor thing that has a major impact. Every 2 seconds, someone in the U.S. needs blood. It's essential for surgeries, cancer treatment, chronic illnesses, traumatic injuries. Whether the patient receives whole blood, red cells, platelets, or plasma, this life-saving care starts with one person making a generous donation. And some of you may not realize that the Red Cross supplies almost 40% of the blood needed in the U.S. So we need your help. Anyway, excuse me. Another thing you may not know is there's always a demand for blood, because only about 3% of age-eligible people donate every year. And, of course, each donation satisfies a need for a patient. So anyway, I just wanted to mention a few highlights. 29,000 units of blood cells are needed every day in the U.S. Nearly 5,000 units of platelets and 6,500 units of plasma are needed every day. And nearly 16 million blood components are transfused. So one donation can be divided up into many uses. And an average donation of one donation can help save almost 3 lives. So a little bit of effort can go a long way. And I just wanted to also mention that the American Cancer Society states that almost 2 million people are expected to be diagnosed with cancer annually, and many of them will need blood sometimes daily during their chemo treatment. So if any of you know anyone with cancer who's suffering through this terrible, terrible disease, this might personalize it a little bit for you, that donating blood can really make a huge difference. So again, if anybody's interested in either donating or hosting a donation drive, a blood drive would be great. In Napa for this year, we're going to have 3 donation drives, blood drives in May, August, and December, and they're at the American Legion Hall down on Pearl Street. However, again, I want to tell you that this is a perfect place to have it right here. Right, a little bit of a subtle hint.
What does it take to host?
Call me, and I'll arrange it with you.
And what's age eligible?
Well, that's the thing. It's 16 and up,
Okay.
but only 3% of the population. I mean, it's kind of too bad, because I don't know why people don't do it. But sometimes there's. She has my business cards. But sometimes there are other issues with adults that for that time, like when they go get their blood tested, you get your finger pricked, your iron level might not be appropriate or something like that. But we want to try to encourage as many people as possible, because it can go such a distance with saving someone's life. So thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Like a photo?
Okay, perfect.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Fuzzy pickles. Oh,
That's great.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. I think we're going to see a blood drive in our future.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you so much.
All right, moving on. Now it's time for public comment that is not on our agenda for today. Do we have any public comment on any other items? Yes, please. Yes, come up to the podium and just state your name.
I'm Marjean, and I just want to thank whoever made it happen for those wonderful, beautiful shades that are now residing at the community park in the north end of Yountville. We all enjoyed them, I think, during the Mardi Gras party. I certainly did. And we waited a long time, and it was really, I live near there. It it was very impressive to watch them dig those holes. Those things are, I think, 8 or 10 feet deep below the ground.
Deeper.
So they're not going anywhere. If there's an earthquake or a windstorm, I'm going to go grab one of them. Anyhow, they're beautiful and functional, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Margene.
I was
Yeah.
going to, just to interrupt, just to give credit, because I think both Sam and John deserve credit, but I was going to ask John, and just so you know, for the public, I do ask the staff to report out at the end of the meeting, so I asked them to specifically report out on the shade structures now that we got them done. So since you're here, looking at John, looking at his mic, I wanted just John to kind of share the work that was, because those were going on for a while, and it was a lot of work, to your point. So.
Yes, as everyone is aware, thank you for the acknowledgement. It's been a long time coming. That project predates my tenure here, but we were proud to finally get them done. I give credit to Rosalba Ramirez, the Deputy Public Works Director, who ran that project. And the key part was she managed the project in time to get the shades up in advance of the parade. It was a little bit down to the wire. They were here right that last week before the parade, but we did get them in place. And then also the parks crew that put the picnic areas back together. I credit them for working very hard to get the area underneath the shade sails put back together in advance of the parade. And we hope that going forward, everybody enjoys the shade that's there now. So thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Will come in handy this summer, I have imagined, for lots of folks. So, any other public comment on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to move ahead to consent calendar. We have 6 items. Do we have any public comment on our consent calendar today? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve our consent calendar today?
Mayor, move approval of the consent calendar items 8A through AF.
Okay, thanks. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Consent calendar passes unanimously. We have no guest presentations or public hearings, but we do have one administrative item that I think we're all here for. And so today, we are going to consider, discuss, and possibly adopt a resolution that will direct the town manager to proceed with further designs, plans, entitlements, and studies based on a conceptual plan for potential development at the Yountville Commons site. So with that, Brad, I'll turn that over to you. And in your staff report, can you also explain what you'd really like to see from all the discussion today regarding what we're doing, approving this conceptual plan?
Sure.
Thanks.
And thank you. And I also want to just take a moment to introduce folks that are here that will be part of the presentation. You have Brendan Kelly, everyone seems to know, our new favorite local, and his wife, Carrie Morgan, Kelly Morgan Architects, who have been the lead designers through this visioning and idea phase. And then we have we have 3 chairs of our boards and commissions. We have Lisa Bertolucci from the Measure S Committee, and we have Alan Tencher from our Park and Rec Advisory, and then we have Stephen Miller from our ZDRB. And so there will be a portion where we will ask them to come up and represent those boards and commissions and, in essence, summarize the discussions that were at the study sessions that led up to today. The question from the mayor in terms of what's the purpose of today, there is a resolution. The resolution, as you sort of at least summarized, talks about considering and discussing a site plan, a conceptual site plan, and giving me, your town manager, direction to further the designs, plans, entitlements, et cetera. And with the ultimate goal of coming back with a project that meets, substantially conforms with the site plan that's before you today. I think the model obviously is before you. You'll see the visuals through the slide deck, and if you can just flip to the next slide real quick. I think one of the things I am most proud of is we stuck to the timeline. I think rarely do you see in government where you say, you give a timeline, which was about 9 months ago, and we're literally here on March 4th, as we had promised. And I think there's a lot of people to thank for that. So I'll just say it's been a great process in terms of all of the work that goes into listening to our community. We've done it many different ways. Brendan will sort of articulate some of those. But I think the plan before you, which again you can see in model and is in here, and we actually included the slide deck, the PowerPoint into the attachment of the staff report so that the community, there's been a lot of people involved at different times, and but I think you see kind of the iteration of the process and the listening, and it all sort of culminates with this model or site plan. And so as we talk about it, it's important to be able to provide general direction in terms of, hey, we like the concept. I'm always listening to specific things and always trying to respond to questions, and Brendan's done a great job also of listening to the community through different formats. But obviously we don't have all the answers. This is where we need to go into what I have called the planning phase. So when we outlined, sort of these 3 big phases, if you will, of visioning, planning, and then building, we are moving into the next phase, which is much more regulatory. I've said this a lot. Like, we will be required to follow CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. We'll have to make sure the impacts, environmental impacts and other impacts, are analyzed. We will also have to get into a lot of the nuts and bolts of how things are built. Things like unit mix and unit size and a lot of the questions people want to sort of drive into. So that is not what we're going to talk about today. Today is, again, conceptual, providing direction based on the plan before you to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And there will be, a regulatory approval. My hope, I'm not going to put a timeline up today because there's a lot more technical people beyond just Kelly and Morgan that we're going to have to include. I do expect by the end of the fiscal year, so let's call it in the next 3 months, that I will be bringing contracts before you to approve those consultants that will be needed to get us through the planning phase. And I will just warn everyone, planning is expensive. I think, we're very cost conscious of what we've done to date, and I think by integrating visioning with interim uses, which are now, really coming alive. And I think the farm stand, I'm hearing, will open in the next couple of weeks, so you'll be able to take benefit of, kind of the last piece of the 5-part interim puzzle, which was Schmidt Hall, the dog park, the fitness center, the garden, and the farm stand. So those things were all kind of, let's bring it to life. Let's get some early successes so the community can touch and feel the commons in a way that's meaningful. But as we talk about this, the future, again, it starts to get expensive, and we have to talk, obviously through a feasibility lens. There's always the question of money that needs to be considered. But again, that's not a discussion today. I think we will be mindful of that. We are very mindful of the fact that we have a reserve policy that was established by this council that we will honor. So we will not ever at least I will never propose using emergency reserves to fund a housing project. So you can rest assured about that. But there's going to be a lot of questions over the next year, and I think it's going to be important for the team to drill in. We'll continue to keep people posted, but it won't be 100 cups of coffee or 1 million cups of coffee and dinners and conversations. This will require a lot more technical analysis and work for us to come back to you with a project that is substantially conforming with what you see before you, but also is feasible and also sort of deals with a lot of the affordability questions and workforce housing and a lot of stuff, again, that's conceptual tonight or today, but it will have to, fill out and make sure that we are both legally sound, but also financially feasible. So, again, be proud of that timeline. I'm going to now turn it over to our lead designer, Brendan, who can walk you through the plan, unless there's any sort of questions about what we're doing.
Seeing nothing from the council this time, so yeah, Brendan, please.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Need to flip that.
Here we go. Am I on?
Yep.
Yes?
You're on.
We were here many months ago, and it is a joy to be here today to get sort of at this milestone moment to get your feedback on this concept. We didn't really know where things were going to go many months ago, but we knew that the first set of stairs looked really sturdy, and we took off into the fog. And it's nice to be here. As I start many of our meetings, whether it's one-on-one or in these dinners or in front of the commissions, Yountville itself is a remarkably built, cultivated small town. It's rare just on its own. Whatever happens to the commons, being a 5-minute walk to a quart of milk and some eggs is a very difficult thing to achieve for any town and any neighborhood in California today. And it already exists. So the cultivation of the town from its beginnings and its incorporation, which we just celebrated, it's a highly achieved thing, and this is on the shoulders of that. So there's no kind of notion that this is going to somehow fix Yountville. Yountville doesn't need fixing. Yountville needs more housing and more public engagement, and this is one of the things that we sort of found very quickly when we started talking to groups. This is what we said we were going to do when we first met with you. Don't harm things. We are going to concentrate on simple forms. There are no big projects and no specialized buildings for housing or for anything else like that. The form-based architecture comes through on this project. We're seeking to make a place, not a project. When people talk about how's your project going in Yountville, I'm the first one to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. We're just designing a really great place in Yountville, and Yountville doesn't need projects. And it starts, of course, with listening, and this is the result of a lot of different kinds of listening. You are aware, as elected officials, not everybody who wants to say something or offer an idea wants to do it in public. And we've heard a lot of good ideas and a lot of really important concerns privately that we've been able to answer, some that we've been listed, some we've had to explain that are just part of a housing project. But the listening part has been one of the great joys and honors about how to incorporate all those things into the project. Oh, yes, thanks. This is on the wall at room 11. It's over 120 or 30 people now, and everybody that comes to see us or everybody that we go and see, like for example, at the dinner, we bring these to the dinners, for example, and everyone puts their pins in. The colors don't mean a thing. I just bought a random multicolor. Everyone is very suspicious about the colors. I can understand that. I would too. But we were really curious about who would come to see us, and everyone from Rancho and Bella all the way up to Old Town. Gary Jabara came through and put one pin there on the estates. That's not a hotel guest over there, and mostly it's been a really great way to track and reassure people that they're being listened to, and there's a reflection of all the neighbors. Thanks, Brad, for pointing that out. We are very proud of our little map there. So this is, of course, is an image. You'll see a couple of these in this presentation today. When we dumped everything from the vision book and some of the scrapbooks that we're trying to kind of incorporate, I asked AI after, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of words, what was the result of it, and this is actually what came out. Reclaiming the heart of Yountville, a place for those who make the town work. And we said, yeah, that's worth telling the council about. This, of course, is an image of the promenade across from the existing streets on the right on Yount Street over here. And this is a park, and we'll go into kind of the promenade or the kind of the civic side of Yount Street. These houses or these buildings finally got sort of right-sized, and they're about 2 or 3 times as far from the sidewalk on Yount Street as the houses are on the other side. but you'll have a chance to weigh in on this. This is one of my favorite slides, our favorite slides. Carrie and I think, had over 250 different sketches and models. And of course, they eventually turned into real models, which we have a lot of spare 3D pieces. It started with, of course, the existing site up here, which we'll talk about. The Napa Valley Unified School District had a plan for all housing here. We tested and tried many successful housing projects for fit. And we tried to sort of test a lot of public and open space ideas. We went to Parks and Rec and a lot of other commissions and tested the locations of where some of the open spaces would be. And really, it's actually about moving open spaces and parking so that the housing and a lot of these other public things can work. Because this is not a school with a fence around it, it's now a public place with a lot of different access and a lot of different uses. It's a very different way of looking at it. And we up to a month ago had two schemes that were kind of, I don't know, neck and neck, and we finally combined them for the scheme that's before you today, which incorporates two significant parts of both schemes. One in particular gets a lot of attention. We call it the shaken grid, but this very kind of organic layout for the 75 plus houses or units back in that northeast corner of the parcel. And but a lot of people from the other scheme liked some more development down here around the existing parking lot, expanding this parking lot, and mostly incorporating this green area further and further into the site. And we finally sort of formed an oval right at the center of the school site, actually kind of approximately where the 1881 school was, in kind of just as the design turned out. You'll see a pool, which we'll talk about today, and this is really the civic promenade, and of course the town hall down here. And to get here, we've modeled things and tried to. This is a perspective, of course, from the southwest corner at Fennell with the Commons, really where the baseball field is now, sort of looking all the way up to the existing buildings, Yountville Fit and Schmidt Hall up here. This is from the other side, from the garden and the way and the parking, the north, what we call kind of the north lot, and the Commons here, the district of houses here, town hall, of course, in the red roof, and the this kind of civics courtyard back here, collecting Schmidt Hall and Yountville Fit and some of these other newer buildings that can be along Yount Street. Everybody, am I going too fast? Okay. So this is a quick view, a locals hub of the farm stand, the dog park, and other unmet daily needs, daily wants. You can see some of the existing Arroyo Grande there across from Fennell. That's the farm stand that's about to open. It is a remarkable thing for our short time in Yountville to see the dog park come to life, the Yountville Fit come to life. The farm stand is about to happen. This used to be a place for generations of Yountville's residents that was very specific for a subset of residents, of course, the kids. And now it's open to everybody, and everybody's getting used to coming here on a regular basis for all kinds of reasons. And there's more and more of that on the way. This is it's a remarkable thing as a designer, as planners, to see such a commitment to experiment on relatively low risk to see how these spaces can be used and talked about. It's fascinating. We're going to try to tear some things apart here in this presentation. In these fabrics, we talk in the way that we've kind of come to this resolution. We have three fabrics. There is a green and open space fabric, which is really the trees and the lawns and the things that you can think of as when the rain falls, the rain goes right through it. There's also a mobility fabric about how people get around. Even though you can walk across lawn and through trees, the mobility fabric is about pathways and connecting buildings and where you are in the world. This is actually a graphic of the parking. There's a lot of of this site covered in asphalt right now, as I'm sure you're aware. And there's, outside of the buildings, there's a lot of little pathways that connect a school building. It was designed for schools and for a lot of cars, buses and recreation. And of course, the green fabric, which now includes a dog park, is a lot of the other side. So it's almost sort of split in two. But there's really not a lot of infrastructure getting across the green space, and there's not a lot of green space within the built world, even though that's starting to change. And we're going to have the commission members, and it's not by accident that Parks and Rec is associated with the open space fabric or the green fabric, and that these mobility fabrics that we're going to talk about have a mirror with the ZDRB and sort of linking about how this is linked sort of spatially and public space-wise to the rest of town, and of course housing, which we're going to sort of talk about the buildings. So this is the mobility fabric for the design, and all the red dots are actually the new access points. In a school, you're trying to limit access points. In a place like this that includes housing but many other things, you want to be able to have as many people move through it, in spite of the fact that one whole side is a private condominium project, and this is a very busy and very popular walkway along the east side, of course. And we've gone from 6 curb cuts to 2 curb cuts, so there's more spaces for parking, and it's more clear about how vehicles who really are a guest on the site in this concept.
Before you slip the slide, I just want to give a heads up to the chairs that how we're going to do this is Brendan's going to go through the next 3 slides, going to kind of get to the overall plan and then work backwards. So this slide will be the slide that Chair Miller talks to as relates to, and you will go last. And I think the next slide, which you can flip to, is the green. So this will be Chair Tencher will talk about, and then the next slide will be where Chair Bertolucci sort of talks. So we'll work after you're finished with tying the fabrics together. We'll sort of work backwards and ask the chairs to come up. So I just want to give you the 2-minute warning and let you know. And obviously, you can say whatever you want. The goal of your comments today are to represent what you heard at your study session, and what we also did use an AI machine or whatever it is. I don't even know what we call AI to try to summarize, just so you know. And I do think it's such an interesting tool when you ask a robot to summarize things. But I do rely on humans. So I will say that out loud, and hope that you all feel comfortable sharing whatever whatever you think you heard at your meeting.
So the mobility fabric, really, all the yellow, all the yellow and the light purple really are ways to describe how you move through here, which is really dozens and dozens of different ways. There is no. The idea is that everybody can walk through here in a different way all the time, with their parents, with their kids, on bikes. You can walk through this way without crossing sort of roads and going sort of through parking lots. And of course, you can go, this is where the new, I don't know if there's my red dot again. The dog park is actually located down here in this concept along Fennell and closer to the farm stand and under trees, which is the only complaint that we've heard about the dog park, which is, of course, very popular. It's the same size. This is the green fabric. Come on, baby. Jason, can you help me out?
Got any magic there, Jason?
How am I going to?
Mine.
Oh, you got the next slide. Just can you click it? Might be a battery.
Oh, there we go. So there's about 3 acres of green space, and what we've tried to do is break them up and move them out to different parts of the site. And of course, there's a lot of trees, especially in the parking areas, but also among other spots. But there's a very clear uniting space from the oval that we described through the sort of this irrigated meadow and down to the dog park on Fennell.
I've taken over the clicker, so I'm going to say something that I think is really important. Because when you look at the linear park or the civic promenade, I think that The reality was, we all know Hopper Creek is such a beautiful sort of path, artery for the whole town, and just having that space. And I don't want to be literal about the space, because I had a few people ask me like about setbacks and what are we talking? And this is where it's a concept. But clearly you see the idea of on all three sides, public sides I'll call that, which is Hopper Creek, Fennell, and Yon, there will be sort of these linear green spaces, which will be great gathering areas because there'll be enough space, at least along Hopper Creek, that, and I try to make the distinction about this space versus Arroyo Grande, because those of us that walk Hopper Creek, you're not going to do a picnic in front of Arroyo Grande, right? It's just like, you feel like you're walking through someone's sort of front yard, and it's beautiful, but it's not a place to have a picnic or to stop and enjoy. This will be that, okay? So that linear park and how that connects, and we're actually, and it's not really shown on the circulation, but I think it's important to point out that we're showing an actual bike path, so separate than the pedestrian lane, that's connecting Hopper Creek along the Humboldt corridor, so that corner. So you can actually go from the Vine Trail down Weber, continue into this site, go down Hopper Creek, and then catch Fennell if that's the way you want to go out to the crossroad, which is a beautiful way to ride your bike. But there's clearly, and you know, Hopper Creek was a beautiful trail design, but it wasn't designed for bikes, even though I saw our park commissioner flying by there. We still use it. Yeah, well, you fly, in my opinion. But I think the point is it'll be much freer flow, and I think this will actually not only be a better design for bikes and peds, but it will create that setback from the creek that will make it feel public. And I think that's just a really important, and I know we talk about these things. I love how the oval comes together and obviously the connection, but the edges are where I just want, you know, people to focus some energy. I'll let you take back over.
The buildings, which are really about celebrating the Yountville vernacular, there's not a lot of very specific architecture at this conceptual level. We know that it's not a big building. You can see the existing two school buildings here, and of course Town Hall. We're in that purple meeting room right here. The reason to look at these things in sort of these abstracted layers is to remind us, our design team, and then to our clients like you, there's actually not a lot of buildings coming onto this project, onto this site, and onto this land. It's very clear where the neighborhoods are, but it's also really easy to see in these diagrams how open, in terms of sight lines and sunshine and dappled light, are really kind of coming back to this site, which is really without trees, and it's been a treeless thing for years because it's been a play field for a long time. So with that, I'm going to
go to the next one, and then I'm going to ask Chair Bertolucci to come on up. So this is again everything put together, and then you can work backwards. You know, and here I can write the slides while they work backwards. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. As they mentioned, my name is Lisa Bertolucci, and I chair the Measure S committee. And just wanted to give you a quick update on how the meeting went on January 30th. Brendan came in and gave us a really good overview of all of his meetings that he has been able to have with the community engagement with his one-on-ones, the dinners. There has been really good feedback from that he's been able to obviously complete this design before you today. A few of the concerns that people had at the meeting were about parking and traffic. Some residents raised concerns about the impact of that, but many residents recognize the need and are supportive of workforce housing. The project, as you can see, and as he has mentioned, is going to have a variety of housing options, such as duplexes, fourplexes, and small apartment-style units, that was discussed, and have an income-based rental structure with a rental-only qualification to prioritize the workforce housing subjects. Parking considerations, the project will encourage fewer car-dependent residents, so that was one of the things that was discussed and brought up in the meetings. Then the key takeaways that we had was to obviously bring it to the council today for review of this and adoption of the resolution.
Okay, thanks. We're going to allow you to ask any questions to all the chairs after they're all done, okay? Okay, Mr. Chair Tencher, you're up.
Council, thank you for the opportunity to serve as the chairperson for the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission, and also nice to see you wearing an official hat rather than in my auxiliary bowl of gadfly. Anyway, we had a meeting on the 16th of January. We were not asked to vote, but we had some very important presentations and discussions. We also acknowledged that the process has been a good one, that it involved a lot of different opportunities for people to give input and to influence the process. So that was something we felt important to acknowledge. We also were tasked as part of that to consider the fit of the project with some of the priorities that you've all seen as part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan Survey. Some of the important points was a gym facility, designated dog park. These are top of the list items, which by no coincidence happen to be uniquely served by the Commons site. In addition to the Wellness Center gym and the dog park, also the farm stand garden don't exist anywhere else in terms of a good opportunity for residents to enjoy these amenities. In addition, there are multiple amenities on this site which will further enhance the opportunities that we have for enjoying things like picnic areas, green space, walking paths, bicycling paths, and go from there. We also discussed the Hopper Creek corridor. I'm excited to see it being so carefully highlighted, and the linear park concept is a little bit new relative to what we saw just a few 6 or so weeks ago. So I'm excited to see that. I think that's going to be nice, and that was one of the encouraging things that the Commission discussed. The integration of open space and housing, a significant, Brendan has mentioned about 3 acres of open space or green space. We thought that that was wonderful to get this many houses in that amount of space. And one of the things that hasn't been discussed that we did discuss was that to favor shared community space over dedicated backyards would be a way to not only invite people from the outside in, but also to build a better sense of community within the built structure here. One of the big items was the future use of the ball field. The Commission, again, was not asked to vote on this, but we did have significant discussion about it. We did not hear a lot of feedback from the community in the various times that we have brought this up. Some of the Commission favored housing, while others emphasized the idea that perhaps in future we might have more young people coming to town to take advantage of some of this housing, and so to have some flexibility would be important. But there was a point that was made, and I don't know whether it was, I think it was Brendan, but it could have been Brad. They both have a penchant for going on, I guess. Anyway.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that, so I will finish here. A project like this is not going to send us back in time. The demographic and economic headwinds are against that. This project can provide housing for people that need it, but we're unlikely going to anytime soon. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind, and the same may be true for a ball field. So in the end, the commission leaned toward a phased approach and allowing flexibility in future while monitoring community needs. So thank you for this opportunity to discuss this with you.
Thank you. All right, Chair Miller.
Good afternoon. Stephen Miller, Chair of the ZDRB. It's a pleasure to be able to address you guys and to bring a summary of what we've discussed with the team from the ZDRB's point of view. Sorry about this. I think what I will start with is that the process has been really open and inclusive. We've had a lot of opportunity to examine a lot of different schematics, and some of them I think Brendan would admit were really lousy, and it's good to get those off the table, but there were some really strong schematics that rose to the top, and I think the one that you see before you today is, though maybe not the only one that we should be examining further, but is the one that was unanimously appreciated by the members of the ZDRB. The shaken grid was the one that most people appreciated. It feels like contextually, it feels very Yountville. There's a lot of other developments in town that have kind of a similar randomness to them, and it creates a lot of really wonderful walking environments, photographing environments, gathering environments, and it feels like it fits really well. The setback along Yount Street was a concern for some of the people that we heard from, members of the community, and I feel like through our discussions and through some adjustments that were made and that I'm seeing even further today, those concerns I think can be allayed pretty well with what you're seeing here before you today. We wanted it to, the concerns of the board members were that it be civic and multi-use concepts were explored in depth, that the housing had a lot of variation, that architectural styles felt collected and agricultural or agrarian in nature, so that it didn't feel static or, for use of a negative term, kind of Disneyfied. We wanted it to look like it happened over time. I'm just looking at my notes here, making sure I've covered everything. I think that one of the concerns at the end of our workshop was that though we like the shaken grid, that we wanted to make sure that we weren't making an early decision that would impact future decisions that we couldn't go back on. So we want to make sure that we're leaving it relatively open going forward, and leaving ourselves the ability to explore different opportunities and also how that fits in economically as well. And it's been a really enjoyable process and great to work with the team. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, if you want to see if anyone has any questions, we can pause here.
Okay, so just council questions, we can either direct them to what Brendan's presented so far or to any of the specific chairs of our our committees. Just first, great job for doing a lot of our work for us, and really, it's really an important part of the outreach because all the meetings that were televised, I certainly watched, and there were people from the you had your public too, who came to address very specific concerns and some things that were higher than concerns. So thanks for doing that and bringing your synopsis to us. So we have a question from Councilmember Tripp.
I just had actually a comment. I wanted to thank each of the chairs of the committees and commissions that presented today. It's very helpful. And just to make, I don't think we said this, but the Measure S commission oversees, I think it's a 1% addition to the TOT that is for the sole purpose of workforce and affordable housing. So that's Ms. Bertolucci's domain, and we also did use a significant portion of the purchase price came from about a third, I think, roughly, from that the Affordable Housing Fund. So that's just kind of how it is. So thank you, though, to everybody.
Looks like no more questions for us. Okay. We can keep rolling.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Councilman Tripp. Yes, Measure S is a funding source that was voted on, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. It is a 1% surcharge on all hotel guest stays in town. I think that last year it was almost $700,000 a year. So we were able to save up, I think, about $3 million of the purchase price. A little over that was used for that. And then as we look at the site, obviously the major expenditures going forward are going to be housing and workforce housing. So it's an eligible funding source as we look at how we're going to build things in the future as well. So thank you for bringing that up. And I will move forward and go to one slide. No, it's not working for me, Jason. Oh, there it is. So this is a lot of words, and I think a lot of it's what you've seen before in terms of criteria and kind of how Brendan started. But then we came up with kind of 6 elements that you can read: Yountville focused, local workforce housing, commercial, connected civic spaces, bike and pedestrian, preferences, educational opportunities, locally owned and operated. There's text behind that. But these were things that sort of, as we were talking about, like, what have we really heard? You know, these are sort of elements that are really kind of guiding principles. So I do think, you know, as you think about your discussion and your direction, you know, these are good things to say, hey, yeah, we agree with this. But also, like, you know, if there are things you disagree, like, let's talk about it. But I think I will say that the term workforce housing, which is like this term we use affordable. The next slides really get into all of this housing discussion, which we have an adopted housing element. I don't know if it was you or AI that summarized it, but this is a really good summary of 10 things that our housing element says. This is a policy document that, you know, the council has adopted, and you know, we've recently had it certified by the state, which is when we hear the term HCD, they're talking about housing and community development that oversees all of this. And this is where this site, we've used this term RHNA a lot, so this regional housing needs allocation. What this means is the state is telling every jurisdiction, every agency, the 700 and whatever 20 of us that you need to zone for, and now they're getting into build. It used to be just a zoning sort of law that said, you know, make sure you accommodate this much housing. But since the housing crisis, and you've heard me say, the housing crisis was literally established the year I was born in 1970. So we've had a 55-year housing crisis in California, right? And I think that the state just keeps getting a little tougher. And the reality is that local jurisdictions, if we don't plan and build housing, we will eventually lose local control. And you're seeing this now throughout state. And this is where you lose community character, because all of a sudden somebody I've seen back, you know, where I grew up in San Diego, there's someone that's like right outside of La Jolla proposing like a 24-story tower where we were fighting the 3-story, all of a sudden there's 24 stories. I just can't even imagine what's going on in Bird Rock right now. But this is the reality I think we have to be mindful of. And that's really sort of this great, you know, side, I guess, benefit to the fact that we were able to acquire the school. Because when we talk about 75 units in the back, our RHNA number is 72. And when you get into these income levels, this is all based on county data. We had our housing authority here earlier, if you weren't here, which is the city of Napa, which is a little strange that we have the city of Napa doing our housing authority. But this is where we will have this conversation. We will be in a much better position in the next housing element cycle, which is a 7-year cycle, just so everyone knows. But because we squeaked through, they gave us like this whole midterm check. So they're going to come and check us out in 2 or 3 years to see if we're making the progress that they want to see for us to maintain local control. So this project was perfectly timed in that sense, because there's a number of projects, including like the Catholic Church on the south side of town, like they're not moving forward with building affordable housing. You know, we've asked them, we have actually rezoned the property for them to do that, but they have other interests, you know, and I don't want to get into forcing people to do stuff, but if the state forces us, we're in a bad spot. So I think that's all I want to say about the housing element. We can talk about it more, but we've designed this project partially to address this issue. So this is where density is kind of this question of balancing a lot of things, but the state is really where a lot of communities are just forfeiting their community character because they've lost control. I'm going to turn it back to Brendan. He gets the pretty slides, but I think that all of those words on those last few slides are meaningful. I would ask you to look at them. Obviously, the whole staff report, you can look at lots of words, but these pictures seem to help us kind of shape the Yountville vernacular is the term I've heard, yep. You know, or some of the design stuff. So,
yeah, this has been there's a lot of pictures in room 11. These are some of the ones that are plastered, really plastered from last summer with community members, green dots. And what we got from them was the residents of Yountville want more Yountville on this site. They don't want a new project. They don't want something modern. What they want is some beautiful outdoor spaces and connected homes. Even though the income level is being addressed, nobody wanted to make excuses about why you couldn't have picnics and why you couldn't recreate alongside them, in between them, and have real places to go for all residents at all times of the year. And now that I've seen what this town can do on Mardi Gras Saturday, I can definitely understand why it's such an easy thing for the residents to imagine. There's a lot of these housing types are all stacked duplexes and triplexes, and they could be stacked sixplexes, the way that they're designed in these kind of L shapes. So this slide, which we've used constantly, is really a range of what they call the missing middle, but they're really established from Boston all the way to Seattle. These are established housing types that are used all over the world, really, about how to get density for infill projects. And this, of course, is a classic infill project. Even though it's not in between two lots, it's sitting, of course, in the middle of town, and we're having to use a lot of these established building types to get the densities that Brad just sort of talked about. If we wanted only houses, we could have done single family, but the general plan and the housing element said if you're going to build houses, you have to have all of these other things that go with it, so it's not just another private neighborhood with a gate or sort of the implication of a gate. This is a very public area that just happens to have residential housing on it. We did a lot of diagrams, of course, to link all the uses. This is the school site here, and the Hopper Creek, which of course is this physical artifact. But there's a lot of hotels and public spaces on either side, and there's a lot of connections that this site has to make to Washington so that this becomes a part of the pedestrian path, not just because of the very successful walking path along Hopper Creek, but that people are walking back and forth through here, not just from here and back and forth to here. This was an early sketch that we did. This shows the 3 acres that we're kind of like always had to be mindful of. This is some very basic planning elements of taking what was essentially a big 7.5 acre lot and trying to subdivide it for cars and access and pedestrian, and still keep a very visceral physical act of a space in the middle. Of course, that's right now the historic playfields, but this is really essentially what's become the commons, and this oval, which came really at the end, which solved some transportation things, but added, really it's the connection to what I call the historic school buildings. This pool, which many people wanted to see, Brad will talk about it, I'm sure, in his comments. This is actually the combination of these 2 schemes that finally had a chance to kind of merge with this farm stand sort of area being served by this lot, and this pool and these stairs and this oval which connects these two places for cars, but also in a way that so that this whole entire site all the way across and up these ovals out to the street, where you can walk through here or through the other way and really not have to feel like you're walking next to a parking lot. And this, I want to say, was a gift by some neighbors who were shocked at my use of my tape measure, and we are benefiting from some gifts in the dinners and conversations, and I just want to say that publicly. So thank you. They were, yes. So this is these are a summary of a lot of the testing of the sketches, both on the areas and the site plans and some of the notes. We got our hands slapped when we tried to move the National Historic Landmark to Grammar School building, which we're presenting in the middle of right now. And but this we didn't start with like trying to sort of squeeze something in here. We tested a lot of different ideas, and this is just a memory of that. We definitely use these pictures as a reminder for the dinners and conversations that even though this is a lot of looking down on things and abstract information, the reality is that most people are going to experience this from walking or driving or biking down Fennell or Yount Street, and these roads are not going to change. There's no building looming out over the top, or these trees aren't going to get removed. The memory of moving between Yountville spaces is actually under trees, and there are literally hundreds of new trees being brought into this site under this concept. That's one of the schemes. That's a reminder. This is another one. This was another one where the parking lot got a lot more attention, the south parking lot, and people liked that. So we tried to kind of sort of combine these things. That link between Yount and Fennell through green spaces is actually the result of this oval and this space. Keep going. And we ended up here as a kind of a happy marriage from listening to all these different commissions, and the dinners and conversations were a very good way to wrap this thing up. They got very lively. There was it did not have an agenda outside of just stand around, listen to why these things are here and what they saw and what they didn't see. Anyway.
So this is the wrap up, and then obviously taking public comment and or clarifying questions, however you want to move forward. Mayor, I'll go back to being proud of meeting the timeline. I think that's like, from my perspective, the miracle. But I also think that the plan has really come together in a place that I've come to know and love. That does I've only been here 2 years, but I do live here, so I do walk here often, and I just think that seeing how it's come to life through the interim uses has really fed kind of how it will come to life in the future. I do think the phased approach, you brought up the swimming pool, so I guess I have to talk about it. I think that, a swimming pool to me, and I know, I think this will be reiterated, but it has been a flashpoint since I got here. I recognize, that we used to have a municipal pool on the hill on the vet's home, and there's a whole story there that is not as traumatic as the school closing, but it's kind of in that same ilk, right? And I think that the reality of Yountville Fit coming alive, I think, creates an opportunity for an expansion of Yountville Fit, or whomever. I know that this question of will it survive in terms of Yountville Fit and the private-public partnership is a question mark. But I think the idea that came through the Park and Rec Master Plan that we need to have a fitness center. I think the idea of having a swimming pool as a fitness facility or something that people can use for healthy, say Yountville Blue, which is our Blue Zone sort of healthy things, is a good idea. I think the hesitance, at least that I have had, is I don't want to operate a pool, because in my previous life I operated pools, and I think Sam can lean in and talk about how hard it is for municipalities to run pools in today's world because of a lot of factors, mainly staffing and lifeguards and other issues that just make them very hard. Now, if there's a private-public partnership where Yountville Fit or another operator can operate a pool, that's a different story. And I think we can contribute to building it just like we did Yountville Fit, but I'll never, you can tell me to do it, but I will never recommend that we run it. And so that's kind of been my line, and I think that's an important distinction between what we were running up on the hill, because that was, and I was subsidizing my last pool $600,000 a year. So people don't know how much pools cost beyond just staffing costs, the energy costs, the ongoing maintenance costs. It's a significant investment, and you're never going to recoup that in user fees. You're never going to charge someone $100 an hour or a minute to swim a lap. So this is a tough community conversation when you have a pool. So I want to just say this out loud because we don't. But I do think, I understand we heard everyone that did say they want a pool, so we were able to squeeze in a 3-lane. And I think this is where it's a concept. We can play around with that if we feel like there's a funding source that's viable. So talked about the pool. We could talk about everything else. I want to hear from the public now, and I just want to, I guess at the very end we can thank everyone again. But I think, proud of the process, proud that we're here tonight. So thank you.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, since we had a few more presentations, is maybe do one more round of questions from the council if they have some. Then we'll go and take public comment. We have a lot of public here, so I'm hopefully we'll have some interesting comment. And then after the public comment period, we're going to bring it back to the council. We need to make some decisions tonight, and so maybe I'll have Brad give us right before we start one more time what you're looking for from us. So that's how we'll proceed, if everybody's fine with that. So I do have quick questions. So I have one question, because thanks for giving us an update on our housing elements and talking about RHNA numbers. So how much did the public really ask questions about RHNA? Does the public really understand that, first, this is just a great opportunity that we were able to buy this site, and what we are proposing as a concept plan here, but the reality is that we are mandated to develop so much housing. So this was that perfect opportunity for that as well. So what I'm really trying to get at is does the public understand that, this housing, and I think it's very important what was brought forward earlier, was that there's a lot of open space in this. You could have crammed a lot more in here. But, so did that really come up a lot? Did people ask about RHNA? Were they educated about RHNA? Where are we with our public? We all understand RHNA because we do our housing element and think about it a lot. But is that?
Yeah, I almost want to sort of tongue-in-cheek say, "Do you understand RHNA?" But I think that most importantly, I want to make sure our attorney and our planning director understand RHNA, because that's where the loss of local control can be real if you don't have a certified element, first of all. And then I know I was talking to Aaron, I think this week, about you do annual checkups, and so they'll come in and force you to fill out a bunch of forms, and so this is where you need to make sure you're following a very complicated document. Okay, so there's no way that the public is going to fully understand the housing element in RHNA. I mean, this is my third housing element cycle, so I've been through a few. I actually had to chair what we called SANDAG, which is whatever you call it up here, ABAG, which. This flows from the state through ABAG or through however the MPO or the COG is. It then gets trickled into the counties, that then gets trickled into. So there's a very fierce battle going on at the COG or the MPO level, which is ABAG, because everyone's trying to push away units, right? And I think you see here, at least what I've seen, which you would know better because Aaron was in St. Helena. Seems like here the tug of war is between the county and the city of Napa, right? They're trading units because they're all looking at how can I comply? It's a very complicated project. So in Yountville, when I saw 72, actually it was a deep exhale for me. I came from 3,000. I was like, 3,000 is impossible. 72 is possible when you have the school site. So I think that's what's most important. Is I do feel like this puts us in a very strong position to maintain our compliance, so that we can maintain our local control. And that's really all the public, I think, needs to know about RHNA. I mean, otherwise, then it's starting to, just get into housing talk. And that's truthfully, we now contract our housing authority. It's nice to not have to, get into all of those conversations. But we will get into the affordability conversation once you have a project, because it will be a requirement to show, those levels, which are, which you get into moderate, low, very low, and very, very low. And you have to make sure that you're meeting, and that becomes a feasibility issue. And that's where market rate needs to subsidize, very low, and you get into this, feasibility matrix, which is very complicated. So I guess you're going to have to trust your team that we understand this. We will continue to, inform you and guide you down a path that keeps local control, because that's just a key issue throughout the state because of what's going on, in Sacramento, truthfully. And I think they're doing it for the right reasons, but sometimes the outcomes are not, at least understood locally.
All right, great.
In our dinners and conversations, it was a very constant topic because of the numbers that are linked to meeting things. And we spent a lot of times talking what RHNA is not, because there's a lot of confusion about that it's only affordable or only low income.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time explaining that a lot of them are making $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they can't afford to live in Napa. So there's a place for that level here. And there was a lot of kind of, really, it's not just a housing project. And that's really what the confusion for us on the public side was.
Okay, great, because I think it's great that you helped the public really understand some of the challenges that we have as, council here to do that. So thank you very much for that. Councilmember Tripp, question?
Yes, I have a question, because I think this is the time for questions, correct?
Correct,
Comments will be after public. My
Right.
question, I just wanted to highlight and ask Gary if he could comment, because the pressure that's coming from the state is not just on RHNA, but private developers, should this have been sold to someone, have, I don't know the exact words to say this, but a lot of rights now if they build certain types of homes to very dense projects. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, yeah. So specifically, depending on the affordability level. So in your zoning code and your general plan, you have density levels, you have height limitations, you have things like setback, floor area ratio, all of these concepts that you all have thought through very carefully along meetings like this. When a developer comes in, though, and puts in very low, or moderate, and there's a certain percentage of those in the development, they get a what are called a density bonus, and so they're allowed to have incentives and concessions and waivers as to those standards. And so they can put in more units than your density allows. So if it allowed 5 units, they might be able to put in 7 or 8. They can also get a waiver as to height. So if you had a 2-story, they could go 3 or 4 to put in the additional units, and also waive things like floor area ratio and setback in order to put in those additional units. So the state has created an incentive through this process for a developer to put in very affordable units. So yes, if you were not controlling this project and someone came in to propose it, it's very likely they would get a density bonus. Also because your municipal code has an inclusionary housing ordinance. So if you propose more than 5 units here in town, you're required to put in a certain percentage based on how many units go in. That will trigger some kind of density bonus that would require that you waive some development standard that would otherwise apply.
Thank you.
Question from Vice Mayor McKee.
Through the commissioner reports, which were really, really appreciated, we have the variety of housing met, the community space met, the green kind of areas, and shaken grid. With phased, though, I wanted to ask when I was able to join you for the dinner and conversation, you had 2 plans at that point, and one clearly showed kind of phasing where the secondary buildings could be built. With this one, now that we're seeing, where's the phasing, or how do you see that going?
The way that we've talked about it with our team and then again with town staff is that I think the first phase is out here. That means parking gets put in early, and because replacing this 33 or 35 or 38 parking spots is an important thing for everybody in the neighborhood who relies on it here, especially the new health club.
So you're along Yount Street for those of us at home.
Yes,
okay.
For those of us at home, for the way that I think about it, and of course the whole reason that we've left this kind of conceptual is that there might be a really much better way, but I think addressing Yount Street, which is essentially the most easily healed part of the site. It's an asphalt parking lot for a use that no longer sort of serves. Getting this addressed, and then I think to get back into sort of a phased building of these houses, maybe a little bit at a time, maybe half, maybe less, maybe more. And then also trying to keep the impact of this to gauge the success of the farm stand, the dog park. This is really it's not just for the residents of the Commons. This is much more about Yountville residents and seeing how engaging through your already, investments in the health club and the farm stand, how much people are like, hey, there's more and there's more demand for this. So to me, there's like this area, and this area, and I think there's a way to phase them as design and entitlements come along. And I'm sure Brad's got a few ideas too.
I'll just say well said. I mean, I think I don't want to say everything's about money, but obviously building things requires money, and so I do also think we have to look at kind of that lens as well. But I do think there's the nice thing about a lot of smaller buildings is there's a lot of opportunity because it's not building one big building. I think the biggest building is the one where he started, which I do agree. Like we should get that whole area straight, in the front, because I think that's kind of the trickiest challenge. But behind it, like there's probably there's multiple phasing schemes that could come out of kind of the back half.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're done with questions. Time for public comment. So just public comment is 5 minutes, so come on up and just give us your name.
My name is John Nerez. I have a comment about the dog.
Okay, can you put your microphone up? We've got TV land out there. We want to make sure they can hear you.
John Nerez.
Thank you.
The dog park was mentioned today, along with the pool. And you mentioned, Brad, that the pool is going to be very expensive to maintain. What is the projected cost of maintaining the dog park?
I mean, very low, because if it wasn't a dog park, it still would be a grass lawn. So I think that the maintenance is really the mowing. I'm looking at John if there's anything I'm missing.
There's a minor amount of water associated with keeping the lawn green, and then just general supplies. We've already absorbed the cost into our parks maintenance, and so the costs for the dog park is actually very nominal.
Is there going to be maintained, like someone watching the dogs?
Oh, no.
Daily?
No, I mean, that's the responsible dog owner's job, which is it's not a staffed operation.
I don't know. It's been my experience that those places can be problematic with dangerous outcomes, because the dogs will fight each other or fight
Yeah, we recently enhanced or amended our vicious dog ordinance to give us more enforcement opportunities, and we have had this conversation. I do think eventually, we've talked about having cameras so that if incidents do occur, then, sometimes you get into a question of whose fault it was. It's harder with dogs than humans, but but I know that, it's a serious subject, and I think we've dealt with it recently, so we're prepared to deal with it. But dog parks are very common. Many municipalities have them. I think there are best practices that Sam has looked into. If you go, there's a lot of dog rules that hopefully the humans read, because it really comes down to responsible dog owners.
We haven't had a lot of problems, is that correct, Brad?
Yeah, I think, no incidents that have been, the only incident that we had was actually outside the dog park.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And how many months has the current one been open?
6 or 7.
So we have
And I would guesstimate
precedence.
that about 175 dogs visit a week, so that's pretty good statistics. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. So it's been open for weeks?
No, like 6 months. It was the first thing that we opened after we acquired the school. So we acquired it, I have to look at all the dates, 8 or 9 months ago. So I would say 6 months is probably a safe estimate of how long it's been open.
No problems. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Who wants to be next?
Good afternoon, Council. Whitney Diver McAvoy with the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to give kudos to everybody who's been involved in the project. It's absolutely tremendous. And I'd like to thank our town manager, Brad Ralston, for being very inclusive with our community. And I think our approach has really worked. The timeline was successful, which is great. So congratulations to everybody. And I'm excited to see what the council decides this afternoon. And I think this is going to be a game changer for our community. I was talking with some folks from Up Valley today about us adding housing to our community, and they were really excited for us to bring hopefully more families and more people to Yountville, which is such a special place. And I think this plan really captures a place, as you said earlier, and not a project. And thank you for so much mindfulness and thoughtfulness that went into this and creating something that I think is really going to work for our community. So on behalf of the business community, we look forward to being part of the conversation as the mixed use dialogue continues and what that looks like. And of course, we're always here to help. So thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. Everyone's looking at each other back there, so come on. To public comment. This is the time. Margine's coming up.
Margine, I will say that I'm a little intimidated by things like this, but I made an appointment to meet with Brendan and Kelly, and it was really comfortable and very visual, which was really helpful. And I felt like I was really heard, which was very nice. And he actually, I recall making the comment, "This is refreshing listening to you because you're not complaining." I'm like, well, okay. So that was really helpful. And then we also attended one of the dinners. And it was great. The questions and sitting with other townspeople and hearing their ideas that I'd never heard of, the market makers or whatever, that sounded really good. So I have been following sort of the process and felt engaged and excited. And I really want to thank everybody because it's our town. Thanks.
Thank you. Might as well, huh?
Might as well say something. Paul Marciniak. I went through the process too, and really am pleased that the town did purchase this in the first place, this property, as we have this opportunity to really examine and see a plan that the community can really take appreciation of having their input in, being listened to, and parts of it have already been established. It's great to see the fitness center there and having the farm stand be set up there. I have an emotional part about keeping the ballpark, but I know it's just an emotional thing because, you know, you like to see activity and sports activity and kids playing, and it's always nice. Or even after work soccer games going on in there. Those are kind of good athletic, fun activities that brings joy to your heart. It's always a joy where I live next to the community park to hear kids laughing and screaming and playing. That says a community. This project says a community, and I think we did a great job. I don't know how it'll look at the end, but I'm sure it'll be a very good, well thought out plan and be enjoyed for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to come up and give us your thoughts? Nope. All right. Well, I'm going to bring it back to the council. So, Brad, give us one more time. What would you like?
I would like you to adopt the resolution.
Okay. All right, good. Just one more time, which is going to be very clear to everybody here. What
and I think,
we're
you know, I
going to do.
think how we operate under, you know, we call it Rosenberg's Rules of Order. It's sort of the evolution of Robert's Rules of Order. Is I think now is appropriate to, you know, sort of have some discussion. Like we talk about, like one round of sort of discussion leading to a motion, and then once there's a motion on the floor, I think you discuss the motion. So clearly, we're asking you to adopt the resolution. I do think, like, if there's anything that you want to say in terms of direction, this is obviously at your discretion. Of like. You know, reiterating things you've heard, maybe. It's sometimes like, hey, you know, I've heard this. I really want this to be a focus area. Those are all sort of, you know, because really what the resolution says is you're giving me direction based on this site plan to go into the planning phase. I mean, if I was to summarize it into really sort of the bite size, and I recognize that, you know, we talk a lot and you give me direction, you know, every week. But I do think you have an opportunity here and obviously an important public meeting to articulate, you know, what's important to you about the site. And I want you to take that opportunity. But ultimately, it comes back to the resolution.
All right. Thanks. Council clear? What are we going to do? All right. Councilmember Tripp would like to go first.
I really support this particular option, and I like it because it is permeable in the sense that people can get in and out of it. I have seen some very nice condominium developments that you wouldn't be able to walk around or enjoy, and I like the fact that there's a lot of open space there. And I also really like the idea that we're moving into some mixed use in a reasonable way. We're not constructing a shopping center. I particularly, and I know people are tired of me talking about it, but particularly like the fact that we will have a permanent home, it appears, for the dog park. A couple people have raised with me, and I think Sam might agree with this, that we might need to think both in the interim and the long-term division of the dog park for smaller and versus large dogs. But in general, I think we really hit the nail on the head. And I do understand the concern about play fields. It's a tough thing, but, you know, I did a back-of-the-envelope calculation, and we probably have, you know, 175 people at the low end using that. Some people repeat a week, but that's like 9,000 visits a year. So that's a heavily used amenity, and also used a lot by the community, although we really welcome people from all over, and I've met people from North Napa and elsewhere, and they're very welcome. So I really like the outdoor elements, and I think from my perspective, it will be interesting to see what the buildings actually look like, although I have a good amount of confidence that we will have nice-looking buildings. But you got to start somewhere, and I think having this layout concept approach makes a lot of sense, and then getting some of the approvals going, because there may be some things that come up that we didn't anticipate in terms of environmental regulation or otherwise. So, there may be changes, but you got to start, and I really like the overall layout. And I want to just thank Brandon and Carrie for all the work they've done, as well as our town manager and everyone else. So I'm very supportive of it. And I really think it's only been about a year since we bought it, which is, I think, nothing short of remarkable. So thank you.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes, I want to start out just by expressing my gratitude to the boards and commissions and the chairs who've given a presentation today. I think having them sort of field some of the issues that have come up during the process makes great use of all of our volunteer people who really want to engage with the community. And then on top of that, Kelly and more engagement of one-on-one, and then the dinners and all the workshops really has been, I think, a really extraordinary participation from our community. And that's exactly what everybody wanted in the first place. And I think it was accomplished by staff and consultants and our town residents. And I think that is a big deal in a year for sure, and all the interim uses that have come in and been very appreciated are sort of point to all the work that was done before with the PRAC and their master plan, identifying things that the community really wanted and sort of moving on those things. And once we embarked on this sort of more design phase, it feels like not only were we asking for opinions, but we were also asking for flexibility. And I think that this design incorporates that, which would address all of the concerns about what if and how about and all of those things. But to have a plan that shows the listening part of the process is really important. And I particularly like the edges of the project and expressing that sort of casual green walkability that Yountville is pretty notorious for. I mean, I walk down the middle of my street, but it would be great if there were more green space to walk on. But I just feel like the coordination of all the uses is appreciated, where we're keeping the sort of civic uses in particular areas and then designing the housing to be in a more sort of residential corner of the project appeals to me. And I think probably the biggest thing is the walkability and the sight lines that are maintained. That's been in our general plan for a billion years since I've been in town. So I just feel like this addresses our current goals, but also addresses our long-time goals for building of any sort. But that this is building from the community up is really special, I think. And I just was looking at Chair Miller's slide, and it's about the pathways and the circulation. And one of the things that I noticed in that particular slide is a car share parking lot. And I could have used that today, and I really need it tomorrow, but it's not here yet. I would really like to check in with the council about whether there could be a sixth interim use that incorporates a car share availability in this property somehow. But also what Council Member Tripp was talking about the openness and permeability for people. I also appreciate the permeability for rain and water retention on the site. I think it's really important that we address all of those climate concerns in this development as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing more specific plans about how we handle energy use and how we make sure that this site reflects the latest and the most forward-looking ways to live and work in Yountville. So those are my comments.
Right.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I know we talked about this, but also for the public. Car share, many people see zip cars that are in universities all over the place. So I think the idea is, a car share program, which you're a member of, you can use cars, as residents. I know that we're talking about parking in terms of the future, but this would be something that we would want the residents to have access to at large, in addition to, right? So like a zip car type of program, something similar to that. Yeah. So that, just so you know, because they also have cars, trucks. Like this is where you can, reserve a truck for 2 hours and go down to Home Depot and bring it back. And as a resident, there's a benefit to that. So I think I want to be clear about what that is, and I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also agree with the idea that parking is one of those things that we've lived with for a very long time, and a desolate parking lot is not a happy place, right? And my son was looking at an aerial view of Yountville the other day, and I had not said anything to him, and he said, "Oh my God, look how many parking lots are in Yountville." So I think being able to address the parking with more landscape qualities, and also not over parking the space, is important, I think. In the future, I don't know that we'll all actually own cars or need cars. So anyway.
Thank you.
Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I definitely will support this resolution today, because I think it's important for us to move from this concept planning process to a design process. And I really appreciate all the residents, the people that work in this community, the business owners, everyone that has really participated in this process. And I'm grateful really for the opportunity that we've all created here by the purchase of the school property. I think we've just begun a process and really realized an opportunity that we've been talking about for 30 years in this community. I liked, in terms of in one of the reports where Brendan came up with this concept of reclaiming the heart of Yountville, a place for those who make the town work. And 30 years ago, in our not this current general plan update, but the one before, I think we hired a consultant that wrote a report that focused on our community center area, which we have completed and accomplished, but also talked about Yountville and the heart of Yountville, and put these hearts on the reports. And so, and when we talk about those who make the town work, it really speaks to the fact that we have an opportunity with the visioning of this property, not only to provide workforce housing, the people that make us, that help us create the funding and that makes our lives better, but that also make the town, for the residents of this town who make the town work. I mean, creating local hubs and civic promenades, and in your report, you talked about how this visioning. Let me see if I lost it now, but in the report, the visioning for this whole project was created, or also included all these visions we had from the general plans about Yountville focused and about pedestrian and bicycle paths, and this project brings all those ideas together. So I think we should move forward. I like the idea in terms of what I saw just from my experience meeting in a couple of those million cups of coffees and one of the dinners, is that just in a couple months we moved from our dinner presentation in January, where you were showing a couple plans, and now maybe in this last dinner, and what we're seeing now is really a consensus building of this whole process, and a plan that really creates an opportunity for just the whole community, and for a place that is very important in terms of its place in this community, its central location, and how coming up Yountville, one of your first plans showed buildings right to Yount, and now this plan talks about civic promenade and creating a space that continues from the community center through past the Bartisono, where there's the vineyards, that we have spaces and places along Fennell and Yount where it just makes it very inviting, and the oval in the center of and the paths and the steps that really invite the community to move through this and make a very livable space for not only the people that someday that will live here, but for all residents to enjoy it. So I want to thank Brendan and Kelly for all your contributions, and for the town manager and staff, and for everything that you've done. So thank you for the work, and I look forward to the future process.
Vice Mayor McKee.
Thank you. On top of all Councilmember Knight said, I do want to underscore that this concept and plan it's interesting, and it's special, and it's retaining the charm and the character that is Yountville, and that is what over and over I know for sure myself has been asked for, and I know when we were back in 2022 that continued to come up as being the biggest concern from locals, is getting the school and then keeping the character of the town. And I think we've achieved that. It's been fascinating to watch the process, and it's certainly exceeded my thoughts on what it could be. So it's very exciting in that way. The fact that we're achieving the workforce housing, the civic use, the mixed use is like check, check, check. I, could get a little caught up on the chicken and the egg with the order that we work in, because I'm all about the mixed use and bringing more businesses to town, but I understand we need people there first. So we got to hatch our little chickens there first. So I do understand that. And with that, Mayor, I don't know if you're ready for somebody to come forward to move an adoption, or I know you probably have some things you want to say too.
Yep. As soon as we give some of my thoughts out, I will probably be asking for a motion. So
okay.
Hold that thought. I think I know who to go to there for that. So I'm going to give everybody a big gold star. I think this is just phenomenal where we've come from purchasing the site to coming up with this concept plan. I think it's I'm just mostly impressed by there really is, it was said earlier, I think Brendan said it, there's not a lot of building here. There is a lot of green space here, and I just think that that's so remarkable, and exactly what I think the whole community probably never even thought about when we first started this, but you were able to achieve it. So gold star to everybody involved and the public to give us their comments to get us here. The thing that I think is also very important to me is to all extent possible that we continue to control the site. That, we haven't got to the planning stage, which is going to include a lot of the financing and the money part, and there's going to be hiccups, I know, when that comes about, but anything that we can do to maintain that control. We lose so much control from the state. I'll say that out loud right here at this seat, but, I think that maintaining that control is really going to give us what we want. And thanks very much, Attorney Bell, for telling us all the horror stories that are out there when we don't. So I think that it's going to really be important. I just want to make a mention about the pool. I'm also going to mention about car share in a minute, too, before I conclude. So I think it's important. We've learned a lot of lessons about having municipal pools. There was one of our earlier this, not that meetings. There was some people that, of course, well, sure, let's have a pool. But I think overall people really recognize the expense and the challenges. And, we've been down that road a few times already. I do like the concept of, a lap pool that's associated with the on-fill fit. So I would like to continue to explore that. It seems like to me it should be part of that facility. I'm not sure how much, so I'd like to really hear from, the current people who are members of Yountville Fit, would you pay for this? How much would that cost? And I think that there might be some creative ways we could explore. Maybe instead of, building a big in-ground pool, maybe there's some drop-in. There's a lot of these old swim spas that, you see out there, something kind of creative that maybe doesn't cost a lot of money. I don't really know. But so I think something like that associated with the on-fill fit, so it's pretty clear that it's not a municipal pool, because that just has so many ADA challenges and kids and lifeguards and all that. In terms of the ride share, I'd certainly like more information about that as an interim use. I'd sure hate to see it go down, because I really think that a lot of the residents here are really going to participate in it. It's going to be a while before we get those residents. So I'm not opposed to taking a look at it now, but, my only thought, and maybe I'm just being a little pessimistic, is wow, maybe not as many of our current residents who are living in their they have cars and they don't really need this, but somebody coming in with this shared space and probably more affordable units might really be who really participates in it. So that's what I still really want to balance. But yeah, I think we need to scope that out a little bit, because how much does it cost and how does it all work? So really understanding that, I'm definitely open to that as well. So those are my comments. Again, gold stars to everybody involved. Really, you aced this one. Home run. Councilmember Tripp, thoughts?
I just wanted to ask the town manager about the ride share. It would be a commercial enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So we would provide a space basically for somebody who's already got this wired. Basically,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it always gets into that question of what's the market, and if
Right. But just in general, we're not.
No, this is Zipcar is the one I'm most familiar with, but I know there's other businesses. I haven't reached out to anyone, so I'll have to kind of see what their business model is.
Okay, because I actually do support that idea too, because once in a while you might need a pickup truck, or I have no idea if that would be available, or a car you want to drive up to Lake Tahoe that's four-wheel drive. So I think there could be a demand, although the mayor's right, we don't really know. But I'm guessing a commercial venture isn't going to come in unless they believe that the cars would get rented. But there's a lot of uses people use even when they have their own car.
Yeah.
So
So through April, we're going to do goal setting again. So I'll try to get some numbers together so you can have a more informed conversation on that subject. But I will say, and I think this is where Councilmember Reeves and I are similar. I know you're now a one-car household. I desire to be one. My wife doesn't agree with me, but I think if that was available, this might be, because for me, I walk to work, and it's rare that we're using both our cars at the same time. But in the fear, right, and this is the California fear that we have, that we're dependent on our cars. They're also sort of status symbols sometimes, but the dependence to me is the issue. And if we can test those waters and it works, this makes it so much easier to integrate into the project when we build housing, and be really clear to residents that are going to move into the commons that this is, and there are now, we're not going to go as far as to build no parking, but as you know, this is a whole thing. Hey, the carless lifestyle is actually, I would love it, truthfully. I love that I don't, and I have a truck now, but I will also say, before I had a truck, I always wanted a truck. So it's those kinds of little things are sometimes lifestyle factors that change. I know your husband will never give up the cars because he's a gearhead, and that'll always be the case. But I do believe there are people like me and us that crave this. It's just they don't have all the tools. In California, it's really hard because we're just such a car-dependent society, and I think that's what we all sort of love and hate about us. So I think it's a really good subject, but I will try to get some more information so I can bring this back and we can have an intelligent conversation.
Councilmember Reeves.
I just wanted to add that I don't know that I'm the only one in town, but we are a family of 3 and have been a one-car family for over 10 years. It is possible even in California, but there are times when you either have to Uber somewhere, or if this was available, it would make life a lot easier. It's a lot of, logistics.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor, final comments, or would you like to make a motion, or both?
How about both? Just a quick thought on the communities in the south part of town. Parking is limited, so we moved in with an SUV and a Tundra and got rid of the Tundra because we didn't have the space in the carport, or we were constantly move the car. So that's a lot of homes in our town that are always having to plan, and there's limited parking on site. And encouraging easy-go golf carts is one way that families can kind of break down and do 1.5 cars and make it work. But rideshare would definitely be of interest because there's times when we're going 2 different directions and we have to figure that out. So with that,
Okay.
do you have any other
No, I
bell
would
ringers over there?
welcome a motion from the council.
Well, I move adoption of resolution number 254344, directing the town manager to proceed with preparing further designs, plans, entitlements, and studies based on the conceptual site plan for potential development of Yountville Commons, located at 6554 through 6546 Yount Street.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, and just to make it more fun, can we get an individual roll call vote, please?
Happy to oblige. Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Councilmember Tripp,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McKee,
Yes.
and Mayor Mueller.
Enthusiastically, yes. So thank you very much. That passes unanimously. So,
Can I handle the thank yous just, and we'll do it really quick? I know, I feel sometimes we exhaust the public with thanking ourselves too much, but I feel like
We're so deserving.
I want to start with Brendan Kelly and Carrie Morgan, okay? It took me a while to realize her name wasn't Kelly, okay? And when I hear you call her Kelly, it makes me cringe because it's his last name and her first name. So I just want to put that on the record because Carrie's always sitting back there quietly. Well, Brendan and I are going on and on, and I think, we deserve to call her Carrie. I'll start with that. But I also feel like the community's here, and and I think there's certain people. I'll point out, Mr. Tencher is, I think, been to the most meetings I've been to, so I'll give you the gold star as the citizen. But I think this is where I want to thank you, because I think we couldn't do this without your commitment and confidence, right? And I will even go as far back as like Don Schmidt and Larry Halprin that sort of created this plan, the previous administration that obviously saved the money so we could afford the site, and I think leading to you in this important decision. So I want to thank you, because I definitely couldn't have done it without you. So. That's it.
Okay. All right. Now we are ready for staff presentation and informational reports.
Yeah, so before Whitney leaves, I just wanted to say, no, everyone I think knows Whitney's planning her future and planning to leave the chamber. And so I just wanted to point out that the chamber has asked me to participate in the interview panel as she makes her transition. And in addition to that, I'm also been asked to serve on the interview panel for the transition of Kate Miller leaving MBTA. So we're losing sort of two long-standing folks. I am on both of those panels. I definitely, and Whitney's heard me say, Yountville focus, Yountville, this is our priority. We all know that the chamber supports businesses. I want to make sure your voices are heard. The mayor and Councilmember McKee serve on NVTA, so they're part of that. I am your rep on the chamber board, and I do feel like we're going through a good process. We have more interviews this week. I mean, it always depends, obviously, on what the board or the executive committee decides. But I just want you to know that I'm on there. I do feel, there's some obvious things in town. Obviously, 75% of our budget is TOT driven with TOT tax, so we need to make sure that the hotels and the restaurants and all of those things are priorities. And I think, I've learned a lot. I've worked with chambers in the past, but never a chamber that kind of had this structure, and I think this commitment or partnership with the town, and I think, I feel it, but I think it's like something that you have to nourish, right? And I think like with Whitney leaving, we're going to have to make sure that the new leader there understands the town, and I think that's, key, and understands the priorities that you all have. So thank you. I mean, I'm sure there'll be thank yous when you finally hit the road, but I just wanted everyone to know, and if you have any thoughts related to those recruitments, I'm happy to listen. And
I do have a comment there. We'll see if... regarding MBTA, that was something that the board decided that we really wanted some outside board members. I mean, we set policy, we understand a lot of decisions that we have to make, but we really wanted some people like yourself and some other public works people and some other people that may actually be running other transportation authorities to take a look at some of our candidates and really weigh in with the specific lens of does this person know what they're doing? Because that might not be something that us as board members who really set policy really have the expertise in. So we really look forward to having you and our other technical team take a look at those candidates. And I also agree that, in terms of, I know you're also interviewing candidates for Whitney's position, but, somebody who really, it's our job up here to be able to run the town. Our TOT is so critical for us being able to do the things that we do. So somebody who really has a focus on that would be important to me, especially, in all things Yountville. So those are my general thoughts about what you're doing. So any other comments from?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
I am
Vice Mayor.
Definitely in agreement that while it's great to represent the entire valley, focusing on our hoteliers that are putting millions of dollars on site to make improvements, whether it's from landscaping to new restaurants and such, it's got to be hard to try to balance the entire valley. So if we can find somebody that really does, like you said, gets into Yountville, gets the boots on the ground, starts understanding the unique attributes to each of our resorts and all of our hotel options, I think that is got to be a number one priority. So I don't know, we've got the board at NVTA that realized we alone aren't the experts to selecting the candidate. I don't know if there's any other priorities that the board of the chamber might want to, or not priorities rather, but considerations that the board of the chamber might want to look at is what other experts could they bring in to not just follow in the amazing footsteps that Whitney had laid before, but expand upon them. So, I think that's what we...
the group, which is, I think loosely the selection committee or whatever, is pretty diverse. I mean, it's I do think you have a diverse group, and I think we're working through the process, and I do feel like, no one can replace Whitney, but we will find and we'll just have to make sure when that person, joins the town that they're clear. And I think one word I've been using, and Whitney heard me use it the other day, is alignment. And I think that this is where we've just, renewed Visit Napa Valley, and you have the TID, and you have the town, and you have all the hoteliers that are all spending money in this world of digital advertising or marketing. And I don't understand it. Whitney does a great job of articulating it, so she understands it. Whoever the new person is going to have to understand it. But the alignment is at the Visit Napa Valley level and is at the hotel level and beyond. But that's really the core of, let's make sure we're getting the Yountville word or marketing out. And I think, I'm saying this out loud. I'm saying, Whitney's hearing that. I think I just don't understand it enough to say how you do it. But I think whoever gets hired needs to be in that place to understand it and articulate it and make sure that that the funding is secure, because I think we have a good system. We want to keep it moving forward, and I think let's all recognize that it's good, and then let's just keep improving or maintaining it. So thank you for that. And again, MBTA is a whole different subject, because obviously they have authority over us, and bus stops are always greatly debated subjects. And I think for us, the B-Bus obviously was an issue when I got here. I have been having conversations with Kate Miller. I do think whoever takes over the realm there needs to take us seriously in terms of how Yountville is different than the rest of the valley. And I think these are things that we control with money. Sometimes we do subsidize the B-Bus. I think let's hope that we can make it more Yountvillean, because I've definitely heard the different issues on that subject. And then I also want to say, while Whitney's still in the room, that there was a meeting last week that council members Reeves and Trips attended that Whitney organized as it relates to foodware or single-use plastics. This has been I think about a 6 month. We had a meeting where we decided this was an ad hoc group. They had a good meeting, healthy meeting, a lot of good. I said all the right people in the room in terms of restaurants and hotels, and thanks to Whitney, that was the case. I'm feeling that this is the right time to bring it back to council, so I will schedule what will likely be an April 1st, 1 p.m. study session. So this is one of our study sessions. So we can have a community conversation about single-use plastics, foodware. It's a complicated subject, so I'll start with that. We're going to try to keep it simple so we can move something forward, and I do think there's been a lot of good ideas, and we're all trying to get to this perfect world, but we need to make sure our businesses can participate and hopefully thrive because of it. This is where the win-win is the goal. So I just wanted to share that, because I want to thank you for hosting the meeting. I wasn't there, but I heard a lot about it, and I think I want everyone else to be able to sit in a forum public meeting, which is why we created study sessions. That was kind of the purpose. And then I'm going to leave unless, Sam, you want to revel about Mardi Gras. John already talked about, or Aaron, I don't know if you have any, but I was going to take you off the hook. I guess now that I'm looking about it, you put you on the spot. But anything you guys want to update the council? Thanks again, Whitney.
Sure. Just real quickly, happy to announce that the Planning and Building Department's new management analyst starts Monday, so very excited about that. And just a quick reminder that I will be accompanying the ZDRB to the California League of California Cities Planning Commissioners Academy in Santa Rosa the next 3 days.
Go to Sam.
No one stayed for my report. I'm kidding. So thank you for all the kind words about Mardi Gras. I think we can agree it was an overwhelming success. I am working with Whitney on a survey to the business community to try to get some analytics on those types of impacts. But always, in Parks and Rec, our main goal is the community. And I think we definitely saw our community and our residents come out, and then a lot more people. I would estimate that we probably had 50% more spectators along the parade route than I've seen at previous parades, probably in the last 5 or 6 years. So weather was definitely on our side, but there's a lot of momentum behind it. And I think having a year to plan now, it's just going to be even better in the future. So thanks for your participation. I hope you had fun.
We had fun.
Most people did. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Anything else? I also, you want to mention the new hire? John, I know you already talked about the sail shades. So.
Sam doesn't want to hear me. We spoke about shade sales and the Rancho de Napa tomorrow at 5:30. The other new information is we've hired a utility operator that's starting out at the wastewater treatment plant starting on Monday.
Okay, that wraps up our reports. Thanks.
All right, great. Council external meeting reports. NVTA, just wanted to briefly mention we had a pretty extensive conversation of some really, really big projects that are, pretty conceptual right now because they're going to require some of them up to billions of dollars. And like I'm referring to Highway 34, right? Highway 34, they go 37. There you go. I knew it had a 30-something, 37. That's going to really kind of go over a lot of the marshland and really have to be expanded, kind of connecting from kind of the old Sears Point racetrack all the way over to Jameson Canyon. So, there was some of the numbers. I think it was like 1 to 10 billion or something. So it's certainly not money that MVTA has, but that's what we do. We get a lot of grants and stuff, and so but it's in the pipeline. More talks about some more roundabouts and some other big projects. So I can forward that information to the town, anybody who would like to see it. But we'll talk about more of that as it starts becoming more of a reality. Anything else you wanted to mention?
I will add that they have plans to add 2 electronic signage boards. One will be at the station that is Trancas and Redwood Street, and the other one is, I think, closer to the college area. But those boards will work with the buses to report the on-time percentage, and want to thank our active transportation, Ashley Tenser, for coming to the meetings and standing up for the fact that not all the buses are always tracked on electronically. So we're pushing for that, pushing for fare boxes. We are lucky to have bus stops here in Yountville, but in St. Helena, other areas don't. And so they are going to look at ridership and find out which bus stops are worthy of having more of a formal kind of shade structure. But let's just say we're really lucky in Yountville that part of it is our town investment, but that we have formal bus stops and that are comfortable and usable.
Yeah, it actually didn't come from Robin or I, but it actually came from a lot of the other members of the MVTA board that everyone should be following Yountville's example. So anyway.
Well, I brought up St. Helena because I'd heard that people were sitting in the sun on the curb.
Yeah, that's what you have to do when you don't have a bus stop. So, Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also thank Samantha, the Parks and Rec staff, and all town staff for Mardi Gras. It was a very fun event, but I also wanted to thank town staff for the joy of bringing out some young children that were able to join the floats, and to see children again on floats in a parade is, I think, a great addition to the Mardi Gras party. And there's just some wonderful opportunities. I think we have some great jazz bands at our high schools and the area that probably would love to join a parade in the future. So thanks to Samantha, your staff, and for town staff bringing children out. It was fun to see and and they had looks like they had a fun time too. So thank you.
Okay. That's a wrap, folks. So now I would like to request we have a. Oh, you have some. I didn't see. Okay, sorry.
I think we should also make a short synopsis of the CAC meeting, the Climate Action Committee in the county. We will be, the joint powers will like to have a decision from the town about whether to proceed on any particular CEQA plan as soon as the jurisdictions have time to consider the options. And I think staff is still trying to explore what our options are as a Yountville part in that, and what decisions might come to us as a body about whether or not to join in, to do other things, and which option we would take. So I think that's a decision that's coming up soon, so maybe in April sometime.
Yeah, when is your next meeting?
It's the end of March, 28th, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, we can make a game time decision, but if you feel appropriate, because it's both of you that serve on this committee, just so people know, and if you wanted to integrate that into the study session, although it's different, like that might be an opportunity to try to explain what's going on, because I know that Aaron, now that he's with us, is embedded, as we say, in the process. But it's confusing. It's another one that I think I need to help unpack for all of you, because I know you've been there. So let's talk about it after your next meeting. If we feel like there's clarity, that's another opportunity to have a complicated discussion. So,
well, if you were so inclined to include it in the study session, again, depending on what you and Aaron think and where you are in your thinking, that might be appropriate. Might be a way to do it.
Yeah, we could call it a green study session or something, and then talk about a couple subjects, because I'm still trying to understand it, and Gary got involved a little today, so we are tracking it, and as a staff we're trying to support the members, but this is one of those regional things where we want to make sure it's good for Yountville, and I will tell you at this stage I can't tell you. There's too many moving parts.
I think the other jurisdictions are also in the same position, and nobody wants to say yes or no. So I think the next meeting of the CAC might shake out some more information for us.
Yeah.
CEQA's a tough one and complicated.
Well, everyone decides to make decisions when they have to write checks.
Yeah, and
it's like, okay, now there's a $600,000 number that's being floated around countywide. Now we would be just our proportion of that, but at the same time, that's a big check. And so this is what forces policymakers sometimes to make hard decisions. And I do think I'm glad Aaron is here and he can go to the meetings and he can look at it from the staff's perspective. But it's not an easy thing. So I do think if we're all feeling good about this is a study session on green things and we can talk about both, I would be happy to try to organize that. It's just that's going to be last minute because we don't know what's going to happen at their next meeting.
I was on the California League of Cities Environmental Equality for 14 years, and we always started first meeting of the year by going around the room and putting stuff on a list of stuff to work on, and CEQA always popped up on that list, and it never made the cut. So no one wanted to ever tackle that. So just FYI. Let's see, Councilmember Knight, meeting report?
No, just actually a quick question, since we won't be meeting at the next meeting, and our next meeting will be in April. I know recently we got a report at our Nicolog meeting that the state has released updated fire hazard severity maps, and I just wondered, is that something that we'll see that will come back to the town or not to review, or?
It will. So. As you said, the state released the new maps. We contract with CAL FIRE in the county, so they're going to be taking the lead on this. We have information up on our website now. I can provide the council additional information if they would like at any point. And I believe that we have to essentially adopt the maps. And so we'll be bringing it before you within 120 days.
Thank you.
But just to let you know, I haven't looked specifically at them, but they really don't affect the town proper. I think there may be some effect up on the hill that we have to think about with the vet's home, right?
Correct. It's essentially the only changes at the vet's home. So.
Right. Yeah, it's all in the red zone. Pretty makes me nervous for those guys up there. All right, time for adjournment. So I'd like a motion to adjourn to our study session at 1 p.m. on April the 1st, followed by our regular town council meeting at 3 o'clock, same date.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. There we go. All right. Now it's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, stay there for 1 sec, because okay, the lights on. I want to give a selfie. Can I go to the bathroom? It's gonna take 2 seconds.
I don't know. Have a safe drive back. Yeah. It's kind of a long process, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Every word. I said, I assume you're all rushing home to watch Trump's.
Oh, that's right. It comes on in a few minutes. Why, will you make it in time?
I'm going to go buy a
I will. I am, actually.